So I was watching a YouTube short earlier by Mr. Sunday Movies, and he said after a few mediocre Ahsoka episodes, he watched all of Andor. And I thought to myself, you know, I want to watch a good Star Wars show. So while Ahsoka was airing, I rewatched all of Andor, and it is so much better than I remember. Now if you excuse me, I need to go on a tangent for a second and talk about how bad Star Wars live action is right now. Like most people, I've been very sour by live action Star Wars, specifically Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan, Mandalorian Season 3, and now Ahsoka. The Book of Boba Fett is about a guy who is always in the background in the original trilogy, and he always had hints of a great story underneath that cold and merciless looking helmet. He finally got development that I really liked in The Mandalorian Season 2, and it looked like his show could give him the proper story I was waiting for. The show ended up being about politics set in a barren desert wasteland. The only development Boba gets undermines everything that he stood for in the original trilogy. The only positive thing I can say about it is that The Mandalorian sabotages it, and those two episodes that forget about Boba Fett are some of the best Mandalorian episodes. Obi-Wan Kenobi is probably the most dull Star Wars show. I think Obi-Wan is a character that should be left alone. I love Obi-Wan, of course, but his character doesn't have many more worthwhile stories to be told, and this show is no exception. Nothing really interesting happens to Obi-Wan between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, except for that one phenomenal scene in Rebels. So unsurprisingly, we ended up getting a painfully boring story that is drawn out over 6 episodes, set in either overly dimmed or overly brightened environments that looks like they gave the VFX artists a week to work on it, with bizarrely stupid decisions. The Mandalorian Season 3 is just whatever. I actually really liked what they did with Bo-Katan in this season, but not much else. The season just felt so empty and is stuffed with dumb decisions from the characters that weigh it down. They also brought Grogu back in Book of Boba Fett, and I understand the marketing decision there, but that completely destroys the finale to Season 2 of The Mandalorian. Ahsoka is both the toughest and the easiest to digest of these examples. Ahsoka is my favorite Star Wars character, and while I don't think Rebels is without its flaws, I thought the ending was great and was left very open-ended. So to see the ending of a show that I think is flawed but I liked, starring my favorite Star Wars character, I don't know how they could possibly mess it up. But they did. I've seen lots of positive feedback from this show, and if you like it, that's awesome, but I don't. While I do love seeing these Rebels characters in live action, the show just dilly-dallies until the final episode, and then they just rush the finale. As of recording, the finale hasn't come out yet, but I bet it's just gonna feel rushed. But after the other 3 live action shows, I set my expectations really low, and I'm not as disappointed with this show as I was with the other ones. I know this is a video about Andor, I know, just bear with me for a second. My point is, these shows are all the same. They're all about big characters that we love, that consist of some good ideas, but they're drowned out by plot holes, dumb and rash decisions, and bad VFX. Andor takes all that and throws it out the window. It's about a character no one cares about, the plot is thought through thoroughly, and this show looks absolutely stunning. I'll try to give this show the amount of praise it deserves, while keeping this video at a watchable length. Also, full spoilers for Andor. The dumb flaws in the other 3 shows I just mentioned is non-existent here. First off, this show looks amazing. This show had a $250 million budget, and you see every penny of it on display. They also filmed at real locations instead of in the volume, and it's so easy just to get lost in this world. They also treat weapons like, you know, actual weapons. If someone gets shot, well, they're dead. They don't just walk it off. The show is also widely separated from Star Wars. A total of 7 characters return from outside Star Wars media, including Cassian, and most of them are just background characters. This is an original story about new characters to get invested in. Cassian himself is not a very well-known character, and I love that. The appeal of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka is that they're all about characters that we know very well, but no one cares about Cassian Andor, the side character in Rogue One. That's the thing that appeals to me though. Cassian is just one of the many little puzzle pieces, a part of the large puzzle of taking down just the first Death Star. The story is just about one person's experience, and Cassian happens to have a very secretively crucial rebellion role. He's a man who tries to go under the radar. He does heroic deeds, but he credits other people for them. With the Aldani heist, he simply does his job, then leaves with his cut. With the prison break, he has Kino Loy make the speech. Even in a more subtle way, just check out this scene.
Let's switch.
What? This is your idea.
Me? No, it's Tiger. Are you kidding?
Wise move.
Then finally in Rogue One, he's just a side character used to prop up the main character. And I surprisingly got really invested in Cassian's journey, and how he naturally transitioned from wanting to be a nobody to wanting to serve in the rebellion. At the start of the show, he's on his own mission to find his sister, but when 2 Imperial guards get the wrong idea about him, he has to kill them in self-defense. That's also just an amazing way to hook the viewer on a Disney Plus Star Wars show. Have it start immediately with the main character cold-bloodedly killing 2 two men. Anyways, once people start hunting Cassian down for killing these dudes in self-defense, his only escape is to go with Luthen. He decides to do the Aldhani heist for Luthen, but only for the money. He simply takes his cut, then leaves. Then after that, he tries to live a life not worrying about the Empire. Then he gets arrested for a crime he didn't even witness. Then he gets thrown into an Imperial labor prison, sentenced for 6 years. And at this point he decides that he will fight against the Empire. And after the prison break, there's no going back for him. By the time we get to the finale, we see his genuine interest in taking down the Empire. I cannot believe that this cardboard cutout character from Rogue One surprisingly has a wildly compelling character arc. You thought that was impressive? Cassian isn't the only one that's given that sort of treatment. There are 4 other characters with that sort of treatment. This show actually feels like a show. It's not just a movie spread out over 6 or so episodes. No. This show takes full advantage of its TV format and explores 5 different characters thoroughly who have their own personality and goals that all collide in the finale. One of these people is Dedra Meero. She's an ISB agent and is scorned and looked down upon by her co-workers. But she proves her skill and becomes one of the highest ranking officers. We also have Cyril Karn. He's also an Imperial. He takes notice that Cassian killed 2 Imperial security guards and he tries to arrest him but ends up getting fired. So starting from scratch all over again, he gets a new job and then we see him get a promotion by Dedra. Because we spent so much time seeing both Dedra and Cyril fail and then succeed, we care deeply about them even though they're technically the bad guys. We also have Mon Mothma. She's someone else who was in a little bit of Star Wars media before this, but never much more than a background character with a few lines. Here though, she's a high-ranked senator who wants to keep that position, but she also tries to fund the rebellion secretly. In the end, she finds a way to secretly transfer money to the rebellion, but the guy who can do it, his requirement is to arrange a marriage with Mon Mothma's daughter and his son, which makes her very upset. And she ends up going through with it because of the rebellion. And then we got Luthen Rael. This is a man who has given his life for the rebellion and has been consumed by it. In his monologue, he states that he has sacrificed his ego, living a fake life. He sacrifices his chance at friendship or love. He admits that he uses tactics from the Empire to take them down. All for, as he said, a sunset he'll probably never see. As much as the black and white good versus bad guys work, this isn't that. This is about several broken people that we understand the layers of where they're coming from. It would be one thing if the characters were fleshed out thoroughly, but that's not it though. The specific plot points are long and dragged out so we can fully soak them in. I'm gonna break down both the Aldhani heist and the prison break right now to show you how carefully thought through they are. Most people call the prison break the highlight of the show, but for me, the Aldhani heist takes the cake. The Aldhani heist is spread over 3 whole episodes. We learn that the heist is gonna take place in 3 days, and the 6 rebels have spent 5 months painstakingly planning the heist. Then Cassian is dropped in by Luthen 3 days before. The leader Vel has to decide to take him in or call it off. She decides to take him in, and over the next 3 days, Cassian has to learn everything there is to know about the heist. You know how I said there are 5 characters that are developed thoroughly? I lied. Those are just the 5 main characters that stay around for the whole show. In the Aldhani heist, we get an explanation on why each of these characters are part of this heist. There's Vel. She wants to prove to Luthen that she's capable of taking on big missions. Lieutenant Gorn, the inside man, lost an Imperial promotion and is now mad at the Empire. Terramin used to be a stormtrooper. Don't know what changed. Probably something similar to Finn happened, where he noticed what he's doing is wrong. Cinta is mad at the Empire because stormtroopers killed her family. Namek is someone who simply believes the Empire is wrong and wants to do whatever he can to stop them. And Skeen, similar to Cassian, just wants to take his cut and leave, but is a little more silent about it. Over the course of 2 episodes, we learn how the raid will go down play by play. I love Mission Impossible 4, and the highlight of that movie is by far the Dubai Tower heist. We learn how these guys will make this planned trade go down, and when we see it all go wrong, since we as the audience got in on the plan, we know why these individual failures are so consequential. The whole Dubai Tower heist is one of my favorite sequences in any movie, but I gotta say that the Aldhani heist beats it for me. Not only do you understand the plot really well like we did in Mission Impossible, but like I said earlier, we understand each of these characters' motivations. Yeah, the 2 episodes before this might be a little boring, but because, just like Mission Impossible, we understand how this heist will go down, we see these individual moments and we know what they actually mean. And when we see the heist go down, it is probably the most exhilarating Star Wars scene I have ever seen. For many, that sequence was topped with the prison arc. Same thing here, 2 episodes are devoted to showing this environment, and then we get an absolutely incredible payoff. For the prison break, the actual prison break is more of an afterthought and not built up as much as Aldani. But we as the audience, if you're paying close attention, know that a heist is coming. Cassian is sentenced for 6 years in prison. This show takes place 5 years before Rogue One, so we know he's gonna get out before the show ends. Also, this dude Melshi, remember him? He was actually in Rogue One. He's kinda hard to notice, but we can conclude that these guys will escape together. We have this in the back of our heads that this will happen, which allows for it to spend more time showing us the incredible environment instead of showing us the plan. The prison here is one of the most creative settings in all of Star Wars. Prisoners are forced to go barefoot so that if there's any misbehavior, they can zap the floor and shock them. The cells are so creative also. There's no doors on them, you just have to stay in your cell, otherwise you'll get fried by the floor. These humans are supposed to do the labor here because they're less expensive and more disposable than droids. And with these things that they're building, they're motivated to go fast because the team with the fastest time gets flavor in their food and the slowest team gets zapped. It's all so cruel, yet so efficient. As hopeless as this all seems, everyone still has a little bit of hope for when their sentence ends. Kino Loy is a character who has been praised to death at this point, and for good reason. He simply does his job as the day shift manager, just counting the days until he's done. He's portrayed as ruthless and will not listen to anyone. Rumors start to spread that everyone's sentences are made up and that no one's getting out. Kino just shuts them out when they try to tell him about this, but when he learns that the rumors are true, he takes a complete 180. At this point, we see how broken this dude really is, despite how much he tried to hide it. Cassian is able to give him strength to lead everyone out of the prison, and when the prison break finally happens, this is another one of my favorite Star Wars scenes. Cassian and the other prisoners realize that they can take down the Empire with brute force, and that's exactly what they do. And Kino Loy makes this amazing speech to inspire the rest of the prisoners to fight. But right as they make it to the end, we realize that Kino can't swim. He knew full well that he would be at a dead end, but that didn't matter to him. What mattered to him is that he got everyone else to safety. Sorry, I went on a bit of a rabbit trail there, but I really had to do these scenes justice because they're both some of my favorite Star Wars content ever. The show's conclusion is stellar. Everyone that we have spent literal hours with all meet at the same place. The only one who isn't there is Mon Mothma, which makes sense because there's no reason for her to be there. This finale doesn't have the best spectacle, but it leaves all the characters in places where they've overcome so much throughout the whole season, but still have plenty of room for season 2. I am both ecstatic and worried for Andor season 2. On one hand, Season 2 was written alongside Season 1, so this story is meant to be continued and not just an unexpected success that got a second season. But on the other hand, I will never have total faith in Disney projects due to how many times they've messed up easy wins. But nonetheless, Andor Season 1 is still phenomenal. If you sat through this review and had this show spoil it to you, well, I'm sorry I warned you earlier, but I seriously could not recommend this show enough. You do not need to sit through 7 seasons of Clone Wars, 4 seasons of Rebels, and 2 seasons of The Mandalorian to watch a show that's a spin-off of a spin-off, and also a continuation of a spin-off of a spin-off, only for an okay piece of media. I want more shows like Andor. I'm not saying I need every Star Wars show to be a dark and gritty adult spy thriller. I want original ideas, and I think everyone else does too. I hope that Disney sees that this show has had success and the other ones have failed. And I hope that they also see that this summer, with things like Transformers, The Flash, Elemental, and Indiana Jones, things that should be easy box office hits absolutely bombed. And original stories like Sound of Freedom, Oppenheimer, and Barbie absolutely crush it at the box office. Okay, Barbie isn't a totally original idea, but I don't think it made $1 billion because Barbie is a famous IP. I absolutely love Clone Wars, and I think Empire and Revenge of the Sith are both fantastic, but I feel comfortable calling this my favorite piece of Star Wars media.